I've been married for 17 years. I've been with my significant other for 20 years, and we're getting divorced. There's so many guides for buying a diamond, but there's not like a lot of very specific guides for getting a divorce. Hi, my name's Geraldine, and I am starting my next chapter. I make vlogs about being bicoastal, both in LA and New York, and sometimes I share content about more personal things going on in my life, and one of them is getting divorced, which seems a lot more overwhelming than buying a diamond. So I thought it would be useful to have 4Cs for going through the process, and they're progressives. If you watch till the end of the video, you'll see that they build on each other. It starts with closure, control, capacity, and confidence. I'm just gonna break each one down, but before I go into them, I will say that as bad as it feels to go through a painful divorce or breakup, it can be much worse depending on how you handle it. What your intentions are for moving on will determine the outcome. It can get really bad. Have you all seen The War of the Roses? Because that did not end well. You probably clicked on this video because you're going through something similar. There's nothing more painful and devastating than separating from someone who you have been investing in plans, dreams. If there's assets involved, you've possibly had children with this other person, and it can be really gut-wrenching, a dark night of the soul. It can be really easy to spiral into the bad habits that you might have developed during your marriage, the things that aren't working, to just replay them over and over. And it's almost mind-boggling. Like, how do you do this if you've just gotten into this pattern with the other person to create all of a sudden new habits, the very thing that you've been trying to create in the marriage? It's like you're asked to create it in the separation. But here's the thing, it's up to each of you to do this. And even if the other person isn't behaving the way that you want them to behave, you can still be in charge of your own responses and behavior. It can get really sticky really quickly if you have well-meaning friends that start really punching holes in the other person's character, or if they've cheated on you and you have a lot of jealous feelings. I've also been reflecting that we're just at such a strange time on this planet that what would it be like if we could do this very difficult thing without slamming each other to the ground? That kind of gave me hope. So having said that, if you have a lot of fear, let's say you have not been able to build a career or income, that can be like a very fearful place, and then that can trigger a crescendo of different responses that are not going to be like better for you in the long run. So I'm going to start with number one, closure. Getting closure consists of acceptance, healing, grieving, and forgiveness. Accepting that whatever wasn't working in your marriage is possibly not the other person's fault, and it's possibly not your fault, but there is a dynamic that has been created, and just accepting that for whatever reason, the marriage didn't work, right? You might know those reasons, you might not know those reasons. You might be able to identify that you're incompatible in some areas that are really critical to your success. You know, there might be things that are subconscious that you're not able to identify. and you simply are not going to be able to understand what went wrong in the relationship. And that's okay. You do know that certain things weren't working in the relationship, and therefore you need to move on. So accepting that it didn't work involves grieving all of your hopes and dreams and the life that you were going to spend together. You know, let's say you were about to retire. Grieving the disappointment of the past and the pain of the present, and like also that now your plans are going to be altered for the future. That is something to grieve. And being able to spend time doing that is really important as well. That doesn't involve the other person. It could involve the other person, but I think it's important to first take steps to be able to work through some of those feelings on your own. You know, no one wants to feel like a failure. No one goes into a marriage thinking, oh, I'm gonna screw the other person. I'm gonna everyone has the best intentions when they get married, and they make promises and declarations, and there's a lot at stake, and it's a very hopeful time. So when those feelings start cropping up that the marriage is a failure, no one wants to take responsibility for an entire marriage failing, nor do you have to, because it's really up to both people. However, understanding what your part was that did not contribute to the success of your marriage is a factor in forgiving and moving on. Because when you take responsibility for the ways that you were, ask yourself, were you the person that you wanted to be in the marriage? Did you behave in the ways that you want to be in a relationship? And maybe just spend some time thinking about that, because if you understand this aspect of yourself, you're going to have an easier time letting go and realizing that either the dynamic didn't allow for that, or maybe you need to understand how you want to be in the next relationship. But really just understanding this so that you're not in this engaging blame dynamic. As long as you're blaming the other person, then you're not free. So the sooner you can really get behind letting your significant other off the hook, the better. Taking your power back and understanding what you have control over and what you don't have control over can be very freeing. You'll need this energy and resource to move on and start investing in the next chapter of your life. That brings me to control. Okay, we're gonna take a little drive and talk about control. Sometimes just getting in the car and taking a drive makes me feel in control. So something simple as that can just be just a message to your brain that actually you're in control of the situation. You're in control of the car, you're in control of your mindset. That can be very reassuring. Recognizing what you have control over in a situation where you might feel often that you don't have control is really important, because part of what is happening is that, number one, you've been synced with this other person for very many years, and you're literally having to get unsynced from them. Like, your neurology is needing to get unsynced. Number two is that your brain and your body might be experiencing two different things. Logically, you understand what's happening, but your body is experiencing a lot of intense emotions. So anytime you have the opportunity to become aware of and just step back, observe what's happening, is a really great thing. So writing down being mindful, even making a list of what you have control over and what you don't have control over might be a really good idea. Having a new routine can be a way to tell your brain that you're in the driver's seat. Establishing new routines, even very simple ones, something that you can do sustainably. Make yourself some tea in the afternoon, take a walk in the morning, even like 10 minutes, light a candle, have one affirmation that you focus on and light a candle. Just do something that's just for you, that's sustainable, and that is a new routine. And that's kind of leaning against old habits and old responses and actual neural pathways that if you do the same thing over and over, you automatically are going to react the same way. If you both work from home, then sort of address that head on and divide up who's going to go out of the house, who's going to stay home on what days, and try to be fair about it so the other person doesn't feel like completely upheavaled that they have to stay out of the house all the time. If you have kids, and you can really address that scheduling, and rather than discussing things that come up every day, try to discuss it and get in the habit at the beginning of the week so that you can get ahead of it and decide who's going to do what. Just really focus on the task at hand, have that inner resolve to be intentional about what you're going to create with this person. It's not easy. And if you're each trying to be as civilized as possible and come from a place of kindness, if possible, then that will really go a long way in making each communication feel that you can create a collaboration together. You do have control over who you tell. Having that inner circle of friends is really important. For me, personally, I didn't want to tell everyone because a lot of people in our circle have this impression of my spouse and I that we are like this power couple. I knew that people were going to have a reaction to us separating, and I wasn't prepared to make room for other people's reactions yet. And so I really needed that time to just process what was happening on my own. If you have a job, you might want to share this with your boss or your coworkers that you're going through a divorce. Harvard Business Review recommends that this is a good idea, but I wonder what you guys think of this. Is this a crazy idea? On the one hand, it seems like, well, your boss could be compassionate. On the other, it seems like maybe this is, it could make your situation worse. So I wouldn't want to recommend this if I think you have to sort of sense out what is the right choice for you. Is it going to be supportive for you to tell your boss or not? What do you guys think of this? Put it in the comments below. I would really love to know. Just by identifying your underlying anxieties will help you feel more in control. You can start to think about a plan B, right? So even if it's not an ideal plan, what are you willing to do that could help you if you really needed to, right? So for me, the income piece is important, and my spouse has been the financial provider in our family, and just knowing how I was going to approach taking care of myself was a really important aspect. Getting control of your well-being is critical to your success, whether that's movement, whether that's taking more bubble baths, having some time to journal, a strategy for getting a hold of your well-being, whatever that looks like. Lean into this area and it will serve you greatly. It is very easy in this situation to feel out of control. What's actually going on is that logically you might understand what's happening, but in your body you feel such intense, strong emotions that it's almost like a disconnect. And that's because there's two different parts of your brain that are processing two different things. Important thing to understand is that there is a bridge, and that bridge is your awareness of just being able to sit back and watch and not take action when you have very strong emotions. Get control of your sense of well-being. You do have control over this. You can do it through body work, through either like a workout routine. Recognize that your body might need to unwind a lot of stuff, stored emotions, neural pathways. It's a lot going on. So go for a walk barefoot in the grass, go for a walk in the sand. Put yourself in situations where you feel, go to like a sound bath if you can, or just lie down and meditate and breathe and just bring your nervous system down. Do things that are soothing. Take a long bubble bath, light a candle. Make time to be self-nurturing. This is an aspect that you do have control over. And be gentle to yourself in wherever you can. Lean into self-care. So addressing this sort of underlying anxiety that you might have, just addressing the anxiety and potentially being able to identify what that anxiety is, and perhaps making a plan, or at least coming to terms with what those decisions might be in the future, is a really great thing to do. For many women, they never address this anxiety and they would just stay in an unhappy marriage for many, many years. And I can definitely see how that's possible. We chose consciously that I would be the one to stay and take care of the kids. We both wanted someone at home with the kids, and that was a conscious choice. I haven't developed an income of my own or a career that was a deterrent for me. It's very easy to go down that path of, oh, if I had that, then I might have made another decision earlier. We did what we did, and perhaps I wasn't ready to make this very big decision earlier. And I really didn't want to be a single mom. So one of the things to identify is if you have anxieties about any aspect of this. For me personally, it was this income piece. And at the end of the day, I really had to ask myself, would I rather be in an unhappy marriage, or would I rather, let's say, go get a job at Apple if I needed to? And I think, not that I'm running out to go get a job at Apple, but I think just knowing what I would be willing to do was a very important step for me to reconcile a choice and become clear of what my values are. Knowing what you're willing to do is an important piece to just alleviate some of the anxiety, because it's hard to take steps and feel like you have your wits about you if you're just in a state of survival. So I'm over here at Royal Oaks Drive, just taking a walk. This is one of my favorite places to walk. It's only natural to leverage each other's skills and abilities when you're a couple. But this can leave you feeling a little like, oh my God, what the heck? Like when the car maintenance light comes on and you're like, what does that mean? Next C is capacity. Maybe your spouse handled the house stuff or the income or paying bills, or maybe your spouse is an extrovert, and when it comes to socializing, he really was the conversation starter, and that kind of allows you to be taking a back seat where it comes to socializing. So whatever it is, just be kind to yourself, but don't lie to yourself. You're gonna need to determine the areas that you want to grow your capacity and the areas that you don't want to grow your capacity. So, in other words, during this time, there might be some new things that crop up, but There's no need to be alarmed. Just expect that there will be some new things that come up that you can choose to either learn, or you can hire someone, or ask a friend, or ask one of your kids, or develop resources around these things. If you live in a house, it might be a good idea, and you're alone in the house, to understand how to shut off the water, where the electric box is, just some basic things, and have the plumber's number. Self-talk is a really important aspect of healing and becoming whole. What we say to ourselves has an effect on how we treat ourselves, how we treat others. It affects our communication with the other person. For example, if I think that my husband is trying to poison me with the coffee he's giving me, then my reaction is going to be much different than if I'm perceiving it as an olive branch. Build your capacity to sit with intense emotions. As I mentioned before, 2 parts of your brain are processing emotions and logic. The more you practice the skill to witness what's going on in the moment, the more choices you'll have to respond differently. And the more that you can respond differently, the more in control you'll feel coming out of difficult situations. Have you all seen the Netflix series Money Heist, where right before the negotiations, the detective takes her hair out and she puts it back and she does it with a pencil? I feel like my hair would never stay with the pencil. It would just totally come out. Visualize the outcome of how you want this to turn out. What's the ideal way that this can go? If you are co-parenting together, visualize how that's going to look. Even if it doesn't have an effect on the other person, it will have an effect on how you respond in the situation. Look for solutions that are fair for both of you. This gesture is going to have long-lasting effects on not only the other person, but on you and how you feel about how you've treated the other person. If you're not able to respond differently at first, then own up to it and apologize, and then make amends going forward. Tell the other person that you want to do it differently, that you want to do it better. Dare I say that you can even be excited with the new toolbox that you're creating, that you're going to take with you into your next chapter. So I think the more we build our capacity, the more confident we feel. And even when things come up that are surprising or new, we don't feel as rattled. And then we feel like, oh, okay, like I got this, I can do this. And we start to feel like, you know what, it's gonna be okay. The 4th C is confidence. Confidence will come from practicing the 3 C's and having that inner belief that you can make the changes that you want to see happen in your life. If you have made mistakes in your relationship, you aren't your mistakes. And really understanding that in a way you're evolving yourself. As long as you know this and you tap into the person that you know that you are, then it will give you the confidence that you need to continue this momentum that you have going, to seek out the things that light you up and the things that give you passion and make you feel excited to be alive. So if you ever have doubts about who you are, then, or what you've been able to achieve, then all you have to do is look back in your life. Look at the challenges that you've already faced. Look at the things that you've been able to accomplish. Give yourself some kudos. Growing your capacity for change takes resolve and energy and enthusiasm. So you've taken all of these steps to invest in yourself and your future, learn new things, and experience the world the way that you want to. After all, it is your life. So it's up to you to make the changes that you want to see happen for yourself. So I hope you feel that gaining a sense of momentum and excitement in the potential of your future self. I hope that in some way this has been a light at the end of the tunnel. I know that it's hard to see your way through, but if you can keep in mind that in with the right investment in yourself, in your well-being, in your heart, in following the inspirations and the joy that light you up and make you feel hopeful and investing in your well-being, you're already taking the steps that you need to so that you can have a sense of excitement about your future. And every day this gets easier, and your momentum will build, and that will give you more confidence, your ability to handle new situations. I hope you feel the potential of this moment and that it can be an opportunity to create a new future for yourself. This is kind of new for me to make a structured video about this topic. Please subscribe and like if you've gotten some value out of this content. It helps the algorithm find other viewers who might also appreciate this content. Thank you.